Hey, it's Gladys. On the first Work With Me, I say the point of all this was to take you guys through the real life process of being a civil engineer and owning my own civil engineering firm. And today's episode is no different. I want to introduce you guys to my friend Devin Arnold. He's the owner of Cultivate Consulting, whom I do business with, and is a business consultant and a former attorney in Florida. That's just what happens when you're an entrepreneur. You find really good people that help you grow and you hold on to them tightly. So let's engineer something.
Hi, Gladys. So basically the business, it's funny, I just said and I'm about to tell everybody about what my business is, which is to help people stop saying So my business, I have spent the last few years in law, but my business is Valkyrie Consulting. It is established with the single purpose of helping people advocate for themselves, right? So it's a business consulting firm, but I specialize in helping contractors, particularly, and people related to the construction space, identify things they can do to improve in their business model. But then individually, I also offer professional coaching services to help people communicate for themselves, right? Now more than ever, communication is a huge factor. And just because we know how to talk to our friends doesn't mean that we know or feel that confident when we're talking in public. At least I know I don't, right? That's something I think everybody kind of struggles with.
That's pretty amazing that you were an advocate and now you're helping people advocate for themselves.
Thank you. I think it's pretty special. Now more than ever, there's something about knowing your rights, right? And by rights, I mean, it's not just the legal stuff, right? It's understanding the skill set that you have, how you can market that skill set, why it's valuable, and then combating your own feelings around the idea of, at least for me, sometimes I would struggle with, why am I in this room, right? It feels like the people I'm working with don't necessarily want me here, but they invited me here. So what's happening? And having that kind of background noise can make it really hard. So yeah, you have to be able to advocate for yourself and say, I'm in this room because you need me here, right? Like I wouldn't be here unless you needed me. And having that kind of confidence, I think, makes a big difference. So thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. My background coming into this, my family's owned a construction business. They do hydrodemolition and hydroblasting. So they have industrial and commercial applications, and then hydrodemolition, same thing. We use ultra high pressure water as a way of blowing things up, which is kind of cool, including doing surface prep, coating removal. The industrial application is like cleaning heat exchangers and evaporators, and you get in there with little tubes. And then for the hydrodemolition stuff, we actually do a lot of government work, which is pretty special. So parents have been in business. It's a family-run business, and I was able to work with them for a couple of years. But my whole life goal, and I'm working with them now, my whole life goal was to be an attorney. So when you met 14-year-old me, she was already very much established. She was 12 years into being like, I'm going to be a lawyer. For the single purpose that goes back to wanting to advocate for other people. So by the time I graduated from high school, went to undergrad, had fun, went to law school. I graduated from law school, worked for a insurance defense firm, which you're hired by an insurance company to represent the insured. The cases I was doing were bodily injury, and I hated it. I was miserable. It's not what I wanted to do when I thought I was going to be an attorney. So I had to figure that out, which was kind of hard.
You're representing insurance companies?
You're representing their insured. So it's a weird gray area in the law. So let's say, perfect example, we had a contractor. Contractor is a general liability policy. Under his liability policy, one of his part-time employees had gotten hurt. Sued the contractor, and we were brought in. The firm I was working for was hired by the insurance company to represent the contractor. This comes up a lot in construction defect cases, so something that's coming up a lot in Florida in general. You may have counsel, but your insurance company, if you're going through your insurance company, they're going to retain somebody who's going to come in and represent you. Yeah, so that's like one of those little things that comes up. And I wasn't doing construction really at the time. I was doing bodily injury, which is really sad. When you talk about blue collar versus what people perceive as white collar, and that professional versus not professional, everything we have has been built and designed by someone else.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
one way or another. Not everything, unless you're the person building and designing it yourself, right? But like the items that we sit on, all of it, somebody whose collar was blue did that thing for you, right?
This
And
glass. Yeah.
yep, yep. And we have this crazy stigma around trade. And for a long time, my parents as contractors, there was always, oh, well, they're not business people. No, no, they're business people, right? I remember my mom, and Gladys, this was what, I'm 35. This was 30 years ago. She would go toe to toe over the phone with contractors to get paid because they were a subcontractor. And I just remember her just, oh my God, she was fierce. She was fierce because she had to be. Nobody else was advocating for them. Nobody. And that was the difference between putting food on the table for us or not.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So no, we never went without. We've had an
Hmm.
unbelievable life. But I remember my mom going into the bank, and it was the Bank of America, back when it was still Bank of America, and it was over off of the one on Royal Palm and Okeechobee. It was at the corner over there. And there was a manager who had this huge truck. It was like one of my dad's trucks. I was like,
Hmm.
okay. And we would go in there, and my mom would fight the overdraft fees. And she's like, I'm not paying this. Like, the money was coming in. I deposited the check.
Right.
You had the money held, but you're just not releasing those funds. I'm not paying this overdraft fee because that $1.50, sure, it probably didn't matter, but it did. Every dollar matters in that moment.
Yes.
So what are you going to do? And I think that
Like
people,
35 times 5, that matters.
yes, and now, God, overdraft fees are crazy, right? That's one of the things that you see banks trying to get rid of now, right? That they're a penalty for it shouldn't be part of your contract, right? So,
Hmm.
and I remember when we were kids, we had gone to the Jewish Community Center for our preschool, and all the other parents would show up, and my mom had like a little minivan, which was fine. Everybody else's moms had minivans. When the dads and other moms would show, they had like very fancy cars, and I knew they were different. And my dad's truck was a 1988 Ford F450, and it was a flatback. So it was a dually, it was a big work truck.
Yeah.
And he came to pick me up one day, and I didn't want to get in the truck. And
Mm.
I think I might have actually already been no, I was in elementary school. And he woke me up the next morning, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And he woke me up, and he's like, come on, we're going to work. Put on your boots, put on some jeans and a t-shirt. We're going to go to work. And I was like, what? No, I have to go to school. And he goes, don't worry, we'll be back. And he put me in the
Mm.
truck, and we drove out to the sugar mills, which is where he was working that day. And we had breakfast in the truck. And I can still see him. I thought it was the coolest trick. My dad's hands are huge. And he opened the Coke can with just one hand. Like it was like sitting in the cup holder. I was like, that's the coolest
Yeah.
trick in the world. I learned how to do it with my tiny little hands because I just thought it was the coolest thing, right? And we're sitting in the truck, and I watched him get the equipment up and running. I watched him run and check other things. I saw him walk into the manager's office, which was not normal for vendors, but my dad walked in, and like he had a conversation, and they all came out to say hi to me. And we were driving back, and I was like, okay, dad, like, what are we doing? And he said to me that did I have a good morning? I said, yeah, it was great. I got to spend it with you. And he's like, did you notice what we did today? I said, well, we went to work. And he goes, yeah. And he said, what about the truck? I was like, what do you mean about the truck? And he goes, were you safe in the truck? I said, yeah. He goes, and you ate in the truck? And I was like, yeah. He says, we're driving home to the house that was built by this truck. And people don't realize, so it took my parents 2 years. They lived with my grandparents, like, and I looked at him, and I
Yeah.
was like, yeah. And he goes, this truck puts clothes on your back. This truck has built the business that puts food on your table. It has built your house. It put clothes on your back, and it keeps me safe, dry, and gets me home to you. And there is nothing more important to me in this world than your mother, you, and your sister. And it's this truck that gave us that.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and he goes, "Don't you ever, ever be ashamed to get in this truck again."
Yeah.
And he said, "Because then you are ashamed of me." And
Mm.
I looked at him and I was just like, okay. And he stopped and he goes, "So, how do you feel?" I said, "Well, I love the truck." And he goes, "Okay." And the next time I was at school and somebody said something about my dad's truck, I was like, "Well, you just haven't been in it. It's actually pretty cool. You can eat in it." Like, I think that
Another
was,
thing is that that's something that you appreciate way more, like in your 30s, your late 20s, after college, like just seeing it backwards, like they did a lot. The sacrifices they made are tremendous. And that's another thing of lessons learned of you got to grow up.
yeah,
You got to go through it a little bit to really appreciate it. As a kid,
yeah,
you did appreciate it. You said, "Okay, thanks dad for all that." But you really appreciate it now.
yeah. And I think like that lesson is one of those things that when I went, I struggled with that for a long time, particularly just like outward perceptions of what people thought we did and like how we looked and what it was versus, when I actually went to work for my parents and I saw what we were doing. And it was the first time I realized that what they did helped people. Because my whole life, I always saw it as, well, attorneys help people. That's
Hmm.
why I wanted to be an attorney. And when the first project I had gone to do with them was actually not a usual type of work for us, we had gone to do we were cleaning a cooling tower. I was at a hospital
Right.
and it
Oh,
was
okay.
nasty. It was nasty. And by the time we are done, it was like
Like
breathable air.
geothermal work.
Yeah, in there. We don't do that stuff though, usually. And
Okay.
it was normal pressure cleaning. That's the other thing. We don't do anything less than 10,000 PSI usually. So like that's very unusual for us, but I needed the money. I was broke. I was living at home. It was in 2020. It was like that COVID year was a big year. And yeah, the end of the day, I was disgusting. I was covered in I don't even know what. It was so gross. And I remember leaving the hospital and being like, we made clean air.
You did the physical labor?
I do the physical labor. That's a fun fact. People don't know that about me. Like I am tiny. I'm 5'3", a very big personality,
Very
but it's yeah,
big.
right. Like it's deceptive. And so it's kind of funny. But yeah, no, I the pressure cleaning was easy. I actually had to learn how to hydroblast. Our employees didn't want to work, but
Hmm.
work had to get done. That's the other part of ownership that nobody tells you about.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna care about your business the way you do. Nobody.
Exactly. Exactly. Like when my accountant pointed it out to me. He pointed out these lulls. Like he's like every 3 to 4 months, something happens. The money starts happening. It's because I'll get tired and then there'll be a lull. And I haven't figured out how to get past that lull. But like you with your family, they have you because that's your business as well.
The lull comes into, and I think, part of it is just understanding planning, right? And
Hmm.
working out. For a long time, their business was super seasonal. So it was built around the sugar mills at the start, and we did work for some rum manufacturers, but it was seasonal. So it was feast or famine. That's something else too that I think you learn as a kid of people who own a business. When it's feasting, go for it. It's great, right? And I think that's something else. It's really hard for my friends whose parents have always had a conventional income, is trying to explain that money comes and money goes. You can just make more of it. Like that
Yeah.
mentality to people is insane. Like they think there's something wrong with you
Yeah.
when it's like, no, that's kind of just how this goes, right? Like it's money in, money out. Like
That's
that's
what I'm dealing with my boyfriend right now. Like he's like, but your business. And I'm like, there's highs and there's lows. There's times I'm doing really well and there's times I'm not. He's like, but how are we gonna survive? Well, it'll be fine.
like, don't worry, I can always make more money. See,
I
like
can
that's
always
the
make more
thing.
money.
I can always make more money. And like when you get to that place too, and it's like you sound crazy, right? And like that comes back to like monetizing your time and understanding what that looks like, right? And how to that's where you get into more of the nuances, right? So when you first open your business, And I'm going through this right now, right? So open Valkyrie. I was like, all right, I found my corporate paperwork. I now have a federal employment number. Look at me. I'm an S
Look at
corp.
me now.
I'm a real business. Ha! I've got an American Express card that says Valkyrie Consulting. I'm a whole person now. And I remember sitting there afterwards and being like, wait, now what? Because
Yeah.
the space I'm in is not construction in a conventional way, right? Like I'm not giving a service to people that's like tangible, right? And it's it's not like I'm bidding to be a consultant for people. And then all of a sudden my phone will ring and I'm doing my job, right? Like I'm talking to people and walking them through whatever problem they're having. And I'm sitting there and I was like, wait a second, I am working. This is work now. How
Yeah.
do I transition this? And you were one of the first people I said it to. I was like, wait a second, hang on. I've been working for free. I'm sorry to do this, but if you want to talk, like, you got to know, like, this is what it's going to look like. And it was a test run, right? But it gets there and you have to be honest about it. So then when I started looking at it, I was like, all right, so these are what my operating costs.
I
And those
also
are,
I wanted to pay you for your time because I was
oh,
like,
please. That was never a doubt. I knew that. That wasn't it. That's why I was comfortable saying it too. Because that's the thing, is I know you own your own business, right? So
yes.
like it gets easier to say, hey, I'm dying here if you are having a conversation that's honest from the start. And I knew what it took to run our family business. Let me rephrase. I have an idea of what it takes to run my family's business because my mother is like 7 people. So when she retires, I don't know how we're gonna do it because she's just out here doing everything. And it's incredible, right? But like
Yeah.
when I started to lay out my business and look and I was like, all right, she's the person I went to and I was like, this is my monthly expenses. Like this is what I'm looking at every month. These are what my overhead costs are going to be. This is what it's going to cost for me to have my insurance. I'm paying myself right now, so I don't have to worry about having necessarily have a payroll company, but I have to do this, I have to do that. Like I get a waiver if there's anything I am going to be doing on site because I'm an independent contractor, so I don't have to worry about workers' comp, right? Legal fees. Thankfully, I'm an attorney, so I can handle most of my own legal stuff. And if it's something that's specialized, I just pick up the phone and I find somebody for that. So I have my budget on legal fees is really small in comparison to other small businesses.
Right, right, right.
Um, and I was able to sit down with my mom and kind of be like, this is what it looks like for me every month. And she immediately was like, okay, look at this, this, and this. This makes sense. Try and cut down some of this. Done. But I had that person to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that person,
And I'm
then
wasting
you're
a
out.
lot of money.
And that was just, I mean, one of the things that was a big investment for me was my website. And the company that I worked with, I love. Happy to share his information. It's InstaRep is the name of it. His name's Addison. He's a great guy. He hit me up on LinkedIn. And I looked at some of his other work and I was like, oh wow, this works really nicely. Like it's a good format. And his pricing was so much more reasonable than what I was looking at. And I was trying to build my own website. The amount of time I spent trying to design my own website is laughable, by the way, in comparison to how quickly this young man did it. So good on him.
Yeah.
And, I talked to him on the phone the other day. I was like, hey, look, I want to add in a couple more services. I really want to emphasize this instead of that. And he's like, no, no, that's fine. We can make adjustments. But that was an investment that like I knew I needed to be making money before I was ready to pour that money into it. Other people would
Yeah.
have done it in reverse. But where I was, my first few clients were referral clients. So I felt comfortable, waiting and kind of putting money to the side or whatever it's going to be. And that helped, but it helped that I had people to talk to about it. So that's one of the biggest barriers I think when you're talking about starting a business is you look around and you see everybody else is already doing it and it looks like they're killing it and you have no idea what's going on. It could be a really bad month for them.
Yeah.
Your lifestyle doesn't change just because you're having a bad month. See, that's the
Yeah.
other thing. Like your apartment, your car, all those things that you buy normally, that stuff doesn't go away just because you've had a
Mm-hmm.
bad month. Like you got to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to make it. And that one bad month is going to hurt you for 3. But that was the side of it. So no, I always felt really stable, but it definitely made me more aware of what it was going to look like coming into this and opening a business. And
Oh,
having their support was easier.
yeah, yeah, because you already knew about you already knew about the accounting part. You already knew about the basically the overhead part. Because a lot of for me coming into the business, I just came in and like, okay, I want to do engineering, and you learn about all the overhead, the IRS, the attorney stuff, the which is scary. The um, there's so many things that you don't know that the when you're working for a company that they're doing that you need to do. Admin, phone call, collections. Even right now, I know you're still dealing with with that on your own.
No, and I mean it's funny because like I very much try to keep it as simple as possible. So particularly, and it's different for me than for you, right? So if I'm working with somebody who is, if it's a coaching seminar, so trying to get people enrolled in that, list it out. It's 3 months. This is how much it's going to cost. This is what we're going
Okay.
to do, right? So you pay automatically. If you don't pay, you don't get to go. That's a little different. When you're in the construction space, trying to get paid can be impossible. Can be impossible, particularly when you have states that favor paid when paid terms for subcontractors.
Is Florida that?
Mm,
Okay.
Florida does not. Not yet. Florida is Florida is like a Wild West with a lot of things still.
I believe that.
So
I believe that.
yeah, so the thing about Florida that's really interesting. Your subcontractor rights, you have to be really careful to preserve them under the statute. So,
Mhm.
okay, now this is the other thing. Engineers and professionals have different abilities than like a contractor, right? So the way that their lien works is different than even like your lien rights are different in Florida. You
Right.
don't necessarily have to send note, or like however the notice works, it's different than what it is for a sub or a
Yeah.
sub. Um, but if you're a sub, there's a chance you can't lien. I think sub rights only go down to the second sub. So if you're on a tier, right, you've got the prime, then you have
Oh.
subcontractor, that sub gives it out, and then that sub gives it out. So there's a chance you don't have lien rights. So you want to make sure that however you're doing it, you're protecting those rights. And that's where the broader conversation that I wish anybody who was getting ready to start a business, if there was a way to have like a big conversation on the beginning.
So what are some lessons learned that you think you had like while you started your own business?
So the first thing that I think everybody mistakes when you look at other people's businesses, you immediately assume that they know what they're doing.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. I'm
um,
like, they're doing it right.
but the reality is, no. Either they do know what they're doing, right? Because they've had other experiences, or they've been trained in this, or they're stepping into something that might be a little bit more fully formed than your own individual idea, right? There's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know what you're doing. In fact, I think there's something to be said for being that honest, right? Which is, look, I know the skill set that I offer and I know what I want my business to be, but I
Right.
don't know how to do this. And the this being, how do I run my business? Um, See it a lot with particularly new businesses that are getting started. There's this gap between what we think we should know as business owners and what we actually know. And I'm raising my hands in different directions because what we actually know is our value. That's the thing that's tangible. That's the thing we're selling. What we know as business owners is not as important, but it becomes much more important down the line um, when you're trying to get paid, right? So, one of the
Yeah.
things, and you and I have talked about this, understanding how to monetize your time. That is hard. It's really hard. It's not easy. Running a business has so many facets and there's so much happening in it. And one of the things that I've had to do, even with coming from the background that I had, so I watched my parents run multiple businesses as a kid. They've been in construction my whole life. I worked with them for a few years in between doing law, then coming back to law, working for a large law firm, seeing how they operated.
That was a message that you sent me, like basically saying people don't get mad at babies for not knowing. Why are you why are you getting mad at yourself for not knowing?
I say that to people all the time. I was like, yeah, you can't hold yourself, you can always hold yourself to your own standard. Always hold yourself to your own expectation, and you should.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know how to do something yet, then take that same standard you have for yourself. So you expect yourself to work hard, you expect yourself to show up, you expect yourself to do the best. Apply that to learning. Then hold yourself to the standard of I'm not doing what I should be doing.
Right.
That's the difference, because it comes back to, and I do say that line a lot, I guess, because I said it to a friend of mine yesterday. We're talking about the bar exam. I was like, you've never had an experience like this before. Why do you expect to just know how to do it? It's not a fair thing to do, right? And when you talk about it with other people, then it gets a little easier and you realize you're like, oh, wait a second, it's not so isolating. But how many times have you found yourself in your own head with no
Yeah.
one to talk to but yourself? And politely, I know my inside voice is not always a helpful woman. She can kind of be a little stanky, if I can use that word. But
Mhm.
like, she is not always supportive.
And another
So
thing is that like as you're growing, your audience that you're competing against also grows. So she was competing against people at that school, then now she's competing against people at a big law firm. Things are going to change. Your doubt is going to increase. Like coming into this business, my doubt has increased like crazy.
yeah.
And that's something you don't realize. It's something you have to learn.
And you have to have people to talk to about it. Because I think, particularly with entrepreneurship, and that's what this is at the end of the day, right? You can call it whatever
Mhm.
you want. You want to call it small business, medium, whatever. Business is business, right? If somebody's paying you for something, that's business. I don't care if it's the oldest business in the world or something new like AI, right? At its core, somebody's paying you for something. That's a business.
Right.
And what you deliver is what matters, right? The relationships you build matter. But if you don't have people in your corner who are able to kind of talk you down or call you out, you're gonna it's hard. It's not that you can't succeed, but man, is it gonna be lonely. And it's hard. And I watched my parents. This is our backgrounds are different with this. I know this,
Mhm.
right? My parents are both entrepreneurs. They won't say it that way. They say themselves as small business owners. They've had businesses that have been incredibly successful and businesses that failed miserably.
How is that? Like as a child growing up with that them having that uncertainty. Because my parents, I mean, yes, they were immigrants, but they always had a job. Like there was always a consistent pay coming in. With your parents, that wasn't the case.
There are three things that I wish everybody knew. And please tell me how you feel about this because we've talked about it a little bit. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the first one is identify what your business is going to be.
Okay.
Identify what your business is going to be. Now, hear me out on this because personally, I am like a groundhog. Not a groundhog. What's Timon? You know what Timon is? I can only imagine that this is gonna be like the little like a meerkat. I'm like a meerkat, right?
Okay.
So I'm over here and I'm like, look, there's danger over here, and now I've got another idea over here. Okay, so like when my brain starts running, I have like 5 or 6 different ideas that I'm like, these are all gonna go at the same time. No, stop
Yeah,
it.
one at a time.
Slow down. Get your business plan done. Identify what your business is going to be. A business plan doesn't have to be something crazy. It doesn't have to be something insane, but it's going to help you. And if you get the right tools and you talk to the right people, a business plan is an unbelievable way to kind of identify this is what my market is. This is how I'm going to fund it. This is what it should cost for me to get up and running within the next 6 months. And this is what it's going to look like 5 years out from now. When you don't have that, it gets really easy to get lost in the weeds
Mm-hmm.
and get drawn into other business ideas, or all of a sudden you're off track. You're going to be open to pivoting. Have an actual business plan. Business plans are helpful. Don't use ChatGPT for your business plan. Talk to people in your business and in your industry that you
Do you
trust.
think a full 20-page business plan is necessary?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a full 20 pages, but when you walk through what the steps of a business plan are, one of the big ones that's going to help you right away is figuring out how you're going to make money. And that
Right.
question of how you're going to make money opens up into the second thing. The second thing is find a good lawyer. Hear me out on this. Not all attorneys are great. Not all attorneys are people that you should necessarily work with. If you don't like the attorney, don't work with them. That's the first thing. But if you know an attorney that you would like to work with, or going one step further, you talk to other engineers. Let's use you as the example. You talk to other
Yeah.
engineers.
Mhm.
This is somebody I've worked with, or you know what? I was an expert in this case. I really liked this one attorney in his group. Or, hey, who helped you draft your contracts? If you have a lien issue, who do y'all use for your liens?
Right.
When you start asking those, because those are not things you're going to know at the start either. You're only going to learn that you need to put a lien on a property if somebody doesn't pay you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that comes back to your business plan, which are what are going to be obstacles in me getting paid? We come back to the business plan.
Ooh.
Your business plan is your playbook, right? So you sit down with your playbook, and no, it doesn't have to be 20 pages. It's got to be something for you. My business plan is shifting constantly right now, right? Because what was working 2 years ago in this economy under our current situation is not the same.
Yeah.
So you got to pivot. When I drafted this business plan and I had been thinking about getting into the consulting side of this, I was working in a big law firm. I thought I had the resources of that law firm, and I was going to have the ability to do all different kinds of things. That shifted. That's okay. So my business plan shifted. I went smaller. I came to my local network. I wasn't afraid to turn around to someone and be like, hey, just give me a call if you ever want to catch up. Right. And that's part of it too. So when you look at your business plan is where you can start to identify your market. Who are you talking to? How are you going to put yourself out there? So it's your playbook, right? Offense, defense, what to plan for. Then you get into the attorney thing. One of my clients the other day, they are a startup. I think I was telling you about this. They're a startup, having conversation. They are on a pretty tight budget. They're waiting to get grant money. And I was like, look, they were like, well, we're filing. We already filed our paperwork as a Delaware C Corp. It's like, okay, that's fine. Who did your paperwork? I'm like, oh, we did. And we had ChatGPT help us. And I was like, okay, so Delaware is a pretty particular state. And a C Corp in particular, right? You're going to be putting this out to investors. Did you guys get your articles of incorporation done? Did you sit down and get your board of directors established? Do you have your rules and what your bylaws are going to be and what any amendments are and what your cap table is and who's getting, and I started listing it off and they were like, what? I was like, what are your roles? And what do you mean, what are our roles? And they kind of looked and I was like, they were like, oh, well, we don't know any of this. I said, nobody knows any of this. Let's just stop right there. I don't want to hear one more time that this is the first time you're doing this. Great. Okay. I get it. The only reason I know is because I've just went through this and because I've had clients who've dealt with this. Otherwise, I would also have no idea. And ChatGPT doesn't sit there and say, these are all the steps you need. Please contact this attorney, right? That's not a thing.
Yeah. No.
So use your network to find out who you can talk to. Those are the two. And then the third one is corny. It's not really business
Corny.
stuff. It's a corny one. Don't forget why you started and don't forget where you came from. Because how many times will you be sitting there and you are dealing with this job and you are in it and there's all these things happening around you and oh my God, why am I doing this? What was I thinking? This is insane.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's who you are that got you here. So don't forget where you came from, right? When you were saying it before, you have two immigrant parents who hustled and built and did. You stand on their shoulder, you stand on everybody else's, and then you stand on your own because your own accomplishments are a huge part of this. And then, this next, going one step further, you got started in this because it's something you like, something you love. That end product, when you drive by and you see your work, that's an unbelievable thing.
That's so exciting. It's very exciting. And this with you, I tell you, after a call or after something that happens, and I call you and I say, this is what happens, you're just like, I'm seeing the proof. I'm seeing I cooked it and I can see the results. It's exciting.
I, as somebody who has spent my whole life, not my whole life, just through the public speaking course, understanding that this voice that I present is a voice that other people can attack and they can deal with, because the things that are coming out of my mouth, it's still me, but it's a mask, very much a mask. And you know
Ooh.
this because when you hear me speak and we're just sitting around and we're just like talking, I have a Southern accent. My words slow down. I am much more sarcastic. I am not as smiley. I'm actually kind of an asshole. But like, public me is this like bubbly, happy. Oh, of course, that's amazing. I am the same person, but it's that version of me is the one I present because it is the person that I think will be most accepted, right? In a
Yeah,
lot of
to me,
ways.
it feels safer to present this person.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at what Paris Hilton did, oh my God, no. And like she is out here just
She got us for like
hustling,
20 plus years then.
hustling. What she's done for the Hilton brand is crazy. What she managed to do, all of her perfumes. She has multiple businesses. Her philanthropic things are incredible. I mean, like, no, no, no. Hilton, as far as I'm concerned,
How do you say something without coming off as that person that's just always having issue with things? I
because
remember
I am
having
that
a
bitch.
coworker.
That's it right there. Done. Stop. You can bleep me every time. I am that bitch. And I'm not sorry, right? I went to the same, if not better schools than you went to. I work as hard, if not harder than you. If it means that as so long as I'm not violating any dress codes, which by the way can also be sexist and racist. So let's not even pretend, right? So as long as I'm out here dressed and my boobies aren't hanging out and I'm in court, right? As long as I'm getting my job done and as long as the people around me are thriving because of the work I am doing, don't you dare even try to raise your voice when you talk to me. I don't think so. Not
Right.
going to work anymore. And going with that in a step further, that comes back to that communication element. I am fine with you having your personal views. I am fine with you feeling what you're going to feel. Just say it to me. Just say it. Because then I know. And having been in rooms where with a name like Devin Arnold, people don't realize I'm Jewish, I have found, interestingly enough, on a construction site, people do not care who I am, how I pray, how I identify, they don't care. They just want me to do my job.
Yeah.
Just do your job.
Yeah. Blue collar is way more just.
Just show up and do your job. If you're there and you do your job, I might say some things that sound pretty ignorant. Not me personally, but the person talking to me, they may say some things that are pretty ignorant. And I turn around and I'm like, I have actually said this to somebody. They use an expression that gets used pretty often about Jewing them down,
Okay.
which is like cheaping somebody out, right?
Oh, okay.
And he's like, well, don't be Jewing me down. And I looked at him and I was like, so funny story. I am, in fact, and I said just like this, I was like, I am, in fact, Jewish. That expression is not what you think it means. And he stops and he looks at me and I go, quick history lesson. And I walked him through like
Right.
how
Yeah.
Jews ended up in control of money in Italy because Catholics weren't allowed to deal with money. So Jews ended up, the word ghetto is actually like an Italian word, right? And like the original ghetto was for Jews. And like
Guys.
he's looking and he's like, wait, what? And I was like, yes. I said, so while I understand that that expression is commonplace to mean that someone's trying to cheap you out, please stop thinking that all Jews are cheap. Mind you, don't want to pay retail because that's stupid, but that's just smart money. And I made a joke out of it, right? And he turned around and he's like, you know what? That's fair. I won't do that anymore. And that was the end of it. I didn't like, it wasn't that's not everybody.
No.
Not everybody's going to be that receptive. But there's people when I'm on a job site, somebody calls me honey or baby or sweetie, and they are from the South in particular. I don't think anything of it. I just let it go. Why?
Yeah. I don't really care too much.
I use those expressions too.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't, but it's a cultural thing in a lot of ways. And I'm not going to be out here Now, mind you, there's a way that it is said. And if it is said in that certain way, I'm kind of like, all right, I see you. And then
Okay, darling. It is
one
depends
of
on who says it. To me, if I'm in a job site, it said whatever. Well, it's not a big deal. If I'm in like the corporate setting and it said, it hits a little different.
I've had it where, yeah, I could see that. And I've had it too where I have noticed that personalities play a lot in entrepreneurship. And there's a reason why people go from being okay. Like, it is no surprise to me that some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world have ADHD and are neurodivergent and autistic, like, and are women, right? Like, that does not surprise me at all
Mm-hmm.
because the way that you cope with that as a young woman, right? There's all these studies on it. You are overachieving, you are driven, you are a perfectionist, you don't ask for help, you rely, interesting enough, your gut acts like basically like ESP. You
Yes.
know, you see the patterns,
The
right? So
rumbles.
like like, oh, wait a second, something's coming. Like, I always hated when I could tell that like things were ending with somebody before, and I was like, oh God, here it comes. I know it's coming. They'd be like, it's not doing it, don't project it. I'm like, no, it's ending. We're gonna end it now. And also it was me too, right? But like when it comes down to it, like if you're looking at this from a business owner side, you got to play to your strengths.
Right.
And if you're one of those people that you have to make the mistake to figure it out, find less expensive mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
find less expensive mistakes. And trust that sometimes the people around you do have your best interest. But make sure that they're and that's the other thing. It's like keeps coming back to this. Who is in your circle? Who are the people that are around you supporting you?
Exactly. Exactly. Positive, being positive, genuine family is so important. It seems like a lot of people when they lose that the aspect of your community, then kind of helps you go down. I think when I was talking about the lows earlier, what always gets me out of my lows is my community. And
Yeah.
then I'm back to making money. Like my staff has now become my community because I'm like they're pushing me to like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And that's like a while to develop, especially but it had to be my engineers. The admin is high turnover, but you community is a big thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
happy that I have you in my community now.
Not everybody's going to have the same answer, and not everybody's going to understand what you're going through, and they don't have to.
Right.
You just have to know who to call for which problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have people to call, start looking for them. This is not like dating where if you're not looking, they show up. Nah, that's bullshit. That is bullshit. Somebody that
Even
I
that is not a real thing. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that the right person will just fall into your pocket, and that never happens. You have to do the work. Like here, we're doing like marketing. You have to do the work. It's a lot of things I am assuming. Am I getting treated this way because I'm a woman? Am I getting treated this way because I'm a black woman? I don't know anyone else's perspective. And and also I'm coming into this world where have my own engineering firm. Everyone's like, I've never seen something like this. I've never seen a black woman own engineering firm, and layers of anxiety. And so I don't know how to act. I don't have a mentor for me. I just have my black male and my mentors, and even that's difficult because they're competition. So yeah, it's like
it's a
competition versus mentorship.
she talks about the scarcity mindset in terms of money. I see it
Right.
in the professional space.
Right.
And when you are just using black as the example, and you are the only black engineer in that room,
Mm-hmm.
does it become competition? Or do I use this as I'm not threatened by these other black engineers in this room because I'm here for the thing I do. They're there for the thing they do. And it's better that there's more diverse people all around because diverse initiatives collectively and historically, right? The data supports this. The more diverse an initiative, a project is, the
Mm-hmm.
more artistically expressive and often it's a better run project, right?
Yeah.
So when you get into the scarcity mindset, and I saw it a lot with women attorneys.
I see it more with with women. The scarcity
Yes.
mindset more so with women than with the black men. Black men, they end up like taking me on, but the women do it way more. We do it more to each other in this
Yep.
industry, professional industries.
So if you have a choice of being somebody that's going to speak up and you're still going to get spoken about, what do you want to be? And what does that look like for you? Because for
Mm-hmm.
me, it looked like me getting into a lot of trouble because I opened my mouth a little too much. But I don't regret it. Not a single word. Because I know that I left an impression on people who are following me
Yeah.
and the people who come after. That the actions I took made space for somebody else to feel comfortable coming to me with their problems. And that's what it looks like, right? Like that's how the original part of the perspective and approach. No, I can't imagine what it's be like to be you. There's not a lot of people around like you,
Yeah.
right? And for me growing up, one of the books I got at my bat mitzvah was Famous Jewish People. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg is like right there, right? Just plopped in the center.
Yeah.
Seeing a Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish woman as a Supreme Court justice who is the reason why women are out here, and really, however you feel about her legacy, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is the reason why women are able to do so many things. And
Yeah.
not just women, people in the LGBTQIA, like so much of what she did came from the basis of sex and then all these other the things around it. I heard her story and knew that even though she wasn't here with me
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know her, I could be like her.
Wow.
And when we get to a place now like Hidden
Yeah.
Figures, right? When you read about the women in Hidden Figures, yes, if you are a young black woman and an engineer, don't watch the movie, read the book.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
That is because that's where you see representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you see that these stories we put to the side are significant in your own personal journey because when you can see somebody else do it, you have the courage to do it yourself. And going one step further, if there hasn't been anybody else who's done it who looks like you, what are the stories you're going to look to keep you going?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of it. Being the first is not easy, but you have to be self-possessed. Sitting at my desk right now, I've got a picture of Muhammad Ali. And the reason why it sits here is because Muhammad Ali to me is hands down one of the outside of the controversies, whatever aside, his interview after he changed his name and people were calling him Cassius.
Mm-hmm.
And he turns around and he's like, that's not my name. Yeah. Yeah. But he was so self-possessed. He was so
Yeah.
calm. He knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody was going to tell him who he was. That man woke up every day and said he was the greatest. Why? Because nobody else was. So whatever you have to do it, believe it. And
I
I
think the
think,
biggest thing I like about Muhammad Ali, I don't know if it's Muhammad Ali, but I then watched This Is Us, and because he was saying there was something about when they punched him in the face, he just turned over the cheek and smiled.
yeah,
And I think that kind of influenced the way I move about life. It's just, okay, that got me down. Let's keep going. So just keep smiling through it. I mean, and it's like, maybe I trick myself into thinking everything is great.
I don't think you're tricking yourself. I think there's something to, the Batman series by Christopher Nolan, probably one of the most beautifully shot things like ever done, like aesthetically. The line when Bruce falls down the well and it's
Hmm.
why do we fall? So we can learn how to get back up.
Yeah.
Right? That's actually an homage, I believe, to the Japanese proverb that failure is it's not falling, right? You can fall.
Hmm.
But the day you decide to not get back up, that's when you failed, right?
Ooh.
So you're right. I don't care how many times you want to punch me in the face, go for it. One of my favorite things to think of is go ahead, underestimate me. Think I'm stupid. Go ahead. I know my truth.
Yeah.
I know my truth. I'm not stupid.
Hmm.
But it's also, that's why being able to say things now with the confidence of, We don't judge a baby for being a baby.
Right.
So don't do that to yourself, and just keep giving yourself that shift in perspective every time of, this is something new, or this is something I've done before, but an element is different, or I'm not sure where I'm sitting with this. What does it look like? Like, give yourself that, and give yourself the grace to recognize that if you don't have the answer, find people who will.
Yeah.
It comes back to being yourself. If you like football, you like watching football, watch football. But if
Mm-hmm.
you don't like watching football, don't fucking watch football. Like, don't do it. I like watching football. It's something I did with my mom, not with my dad. My dad could give two hooies about football. The only reason he started to watch football was because the whole rest of us do. And he had to have something to talk about. I'm serious. My parents have a sign
That's
in them.
hilarious that the man in the house started watching football because of that. I started watching college football because of Corey, and I enjoy it now. I love watching college football. So yeah, I do a few dewy things like construction, those things. But people don't want to talk about work all the time. They want to talk about,
But you don't have to talk about work. There's other things that you're interested in. I'm telling you right now, if you wrote it out, you'd be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And like, guys like shopping. Guys like skincare. You would be surprised. Oh my God. And like the people, there's so much to it that like, don't think it's hard not to do this. And it's really easy for me to say this because I'm not you.
right.
So let me put this out there. I don't think your interests, your disinterests make you that much of an outlier. I do think that we tell ourselves it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you gave it a shot, the next time you're at a networking thing or something, of just listening,
Mm-hmm.
hearing, and then putting in your 2 cents on what it is, who you actually are, right? And don't get me wrong, there's always something about taking on new experiences. That's great. Like, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But like, who you actually are is somebody that has a lot to offer that isn't just work. It isn't just work. You are a curious person. Ask people questions that don't involve sports. That's things people love to talk about. You'd be amazed. And then you can learn the things you learn about people through those things. Like, that's one of the things I'm trying to coach somebody on right now.
I try, and they'll be like, "You are invasive. You cannot be like, you're just asking, am I meet my business?" I'm like, "Okay, girl."
Yeah, the next time you go to an event, let me know and I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And I'll show you what I mean. Because there's something about it that, like, when people shut you down like that, right? Or they're looking for something and be like, well, you didn't ask me. I would share. Make it funny. Put it back on them.
Yeah.
Be like, well, what else do you want to talk about? Because we don't want to talk about work. And nothing personal. I haven't watched football this week. And I don't have a fantasy team. So I have to have other interests. What else y'all doing?
Yeah.
Don't hesitate with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just because, like, no, being the only gives you an advantage. And I don't think you see the advantage yet. And I want you to. Because the part of being the only is that it's like being the belle of the ball, right? You're there. Everybody wants to know, how'd you get here?
Yeah.
What's your deal? When you are a person who's the odd one out in the room and you watch this, they have to, like, they rush. Nope. Make your presence known by being there. You don't have to say anything. You just have to ask questions. That's it.
Yeah.
You just have to ask questions and let them answer. Because people love to talk about themselves.
Big girl, they do. And we've been doing it for 2 hours. That is amazing. Please reach out to her for your business consulting needs or just to help you feel like your best self. And because we always do as business owners, and it doesn't help with productivity. Still need more engineering? We got tons in the back. We got tons coming. So like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. Bye.